Okay, cool. Let's kick this off. So I got some notes here. I'm not very good at following a script, so I'll probably go off it pretty soon, but I'll try to at least look at it. Okay, so welcome to the ADHD Behind the Scenes panel event. We have an esteemed group of panelists today who run successful businesses and are social media influencers. But the trouble with ADHD social media, as Frances Haugen's testimony on Facebook this week highlights, is that it can convey an unrealistic image of reality. So, in honor of ADHD Awareness Month, these brave panelists and I have decided to pull back the curtain and let you see behind the scenes of what success with ADHD actually looks like. Why is having a realistic image of what success with ADHD actually looks like important? Because if you're striving to get there, it's helpful to know what the destination looks like. I see with a lot of my clients that they'll say, oh, I do some of these bad behaviors, like I'm disorganized, or I work too slowly, or I procrastinate, as evidence that they're doing something wrong and aren't going to be successful. And I can tell you that I still do all three of those bad behaviors. But what we found is we found ways to work around some of that. And so our goal as panelists is to twofold. One, to normalize some of the bad behaviors so you can have a more realistic expectation of what success with ADHD looks like, and to reveal some of our go-to strategies that keep us from drowning in some of our ADHD tendencies and challenges. All right, so we're about to dive into introductions in a minute, but let me just tell you that you all submitted over 100 questions in the audience when you registered.
And Aron's going to stay up all night answering them.
Very true. And my assistant and I went through, grouped the similar ones, added a few of our own, and got the list down to under 20 questions. So that's what we're going to go through, and I'll actually show you what the questions are before we dive in. But before we do that, we're going to do like 1-ish minutes, maybe 90-second intros each. So panelists, I'm going to go one by one through you and just give any necessary backstory, and also give the audience some idea of the results that you've produced in your life or in your business. Now, I just want to caveat this, that I know that most of us don't like to brag, but it's important, because we're going to let people in behind the scenes, that they have an idea about the kinds of results that you produce, despite the behind the scenes reality of how you might produce those messily. So we're not sharing the results we've produced to impress you, but just to impress on you that big results are positive despite some of the ADHD challenges that you'll hear in our systems. So with that, I am going to go in, I'm going to start with Eric, and we'll roughly just aim for 60 to 90 seconds.
All right, I will, I'm going to set my timer here, because I am time blind, and it could easily turn into an hour and then this thing will be over. All right. So I'm Eric Tivers. I host the ADHD Rewired podcast and run the ADHD Rewired podcast network. I started that in April of 2014, so it's been about 7 years. On my podcast, I am actually nearing episode 400. We're nearing 3 million downloads. We have 4 other podcasts, soon to be 5, a 5th podcast on our podcast network. I run intensive coaching groups. We've had a little over 700 people go through our intensive coaching program. We this year started a new membership community called Adult Study Hall, which is for virtual co-working, which has a 24-hour drop-in room, as well as a bunch of guided and facilitated sessions. And that's kind of the highlights. It's fantastic, 'cause I am really proudly unemployable.
Love it. Love it. All right, over to you, Brittany.
I was looking for my timer. Hold on. That was a good idea because I also will literally talk for a freaking year. One moment. I should just tell Alexa to set the damn timer. Okay. Oh my
There
God.
you go.
This is what happens, you guys. All right. Hi, I'm Brittany. Welcome. I'm a mom of 5. I have 5 kids, ages 10 and under. We adopted 4 of our 5 kids from the foster care system, which is a whole other talk entirely. But 2 of my kids have diagnosed ADHD. One who we believe is on the spectrum and has ADHD, but he's 5, so diagnosis can kind of take a tick, as one is wont to know. It can be tricky. I learned the vast majority of what I know about ADHD very early on when my girls were getting diagnosed. And then I had a breakdown in the middle of the start of the pandemic. And my therapist looks at me and says, interesting that you were using working as a coping mechanism. How's that working for you? And we dialed a few things out, and I was very lucky in that I had provider access everywhere and it was great. But a lot of people don't. I have since built an entire business around designing planners and making specialty stationery for people who want equal opportunity access to be able to plan and organize their brains. And I've had almost $400,000 in sales since February. So it has been quite the adventure. I now have 5 employees. I know it's been a move. It's been a moment. So yeah, it's been a pandemic. It's been a pandemic for us all, but yeah.
Love it. Awesome. All right, great. Dr. Pomeroy.
Hi, I'm David Pomeroy. I'm a family med doc. I did general family medicine for about 26 years. I delivered babies, assisted at surgery, saw people in the office, and family medicine kind of narrowed down more and more to office practice. And in the last big multi-specialty clinic organization I was in, a sign went up in the waiting room that said, you have a second problem, make a second appointment. And I said, I'm out of here. I have never practiced medicine that way, never will. So I opened up my solo practice and specializing in ADHD. And about 4 years before that, I'd been diagnosed with ADHD. So I was learning more and more about it in those 4 years. And since 2005, I've seen over 3,000 patients, diagnosed most of them, and treat their ADHD and their anxiety and depression and bipolar disorder and all the stuff that goes with it. I prescribe medications, I coach, I counsel, I give people resources. And in just preparing for this, I realized I'm doing exactly what I've done for the past 43 years. That's what practicing medicine means to me. And I love it.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's awesome.
Good luck following that.
Did you just volunteer?
I think so. Between bites of chili.
All right. Lynn, go for it.
Sure. I'm Lynne Idris. I am a productivity and ADHD coach. I work with overwhelmed professionals from all over the world on things like procrastination and disorganization and poor time management. I am a woman with ADHD myself. So I've lived in the midst of the ugly, the overwhelm, the underperformance, that constant feeling of, I know I can do more than this if only I can insert your whatever here. And for me, it was always just, if only I could get my shit together, right? Sorry, guys, I swear. And that was kind of the theme of my entire life growing up. She's so smart. If only she'd apply herself. She's so smart, or she's so whatever. If only she'd try harder. And I think that's a message that almost all my clients can connect with. I'm not really good with the like self whatever thing, the accomplishment thing, but I am proud of building a multiple 6-figure business by myself out of nowhere with no business background. I remember, in the very, very early years, I hired my first coach to help me build my coaching business. And I said, okay, so I built it. I'm trained, I'm certified, I've got a website, like, where are they, And he was like, well, there's a little more to it than that. Little did I know, 15 plus years later, I've built a business that I love with all different kinds of facets of ways that I help people and serve people. And, I just love our tribe. I mean, I feel really, not to get all like dorky on you, but I feel really grateful every day for my clients. Every single day, somebody
Absolutely.
amazes me, somebody gives me goosebumps, somebody brings me to tears. We are the most resilient. We are the most fun people to work with. We are the people with the biggest heart. I mean, I love what we do. I love who I serve. And, you know, it really is an honor. I think that was all the things I was supposed to say. And
I think so. I think so too. And I'm going to make you set a timer next time. I'm just
sorry, did I get carried away? I did not set a timer. In case you couldn't tell.
You really expect us to stay on time, Aron? Come on.
I mean, I could set a timer on my screen if you need me to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
actually,
there you go.
Too late now.
I'm a little bit of a taskmaster on that, so we'll see. We'll see. No, I'm just teasing you though, Lynn. All right, Coach Ryan Mayer.
The dramatic pause. I just had to get to the mute button and start my timer at the same time. I just want to say how cool it is to be here with 110 people who are taking the step to better themselves and learn that it's okay to not be okay sometimes. So I think that's so great. And it's so fun to be with Eric and Brittany and Lynn, people who I've followed for a long time. So it's really cool. Long-time listener, first-time panelist. So Coach Ryan, I started my practice about 1.5 years ago. And it's pretty wild because I fall into the social media influencer category, which is still weird for me to say because I posted my first TikTok a little over 8 months ago, which doesn't even seem like it could possibly be real because now I have 388,500 followers and it's just like so insane. But similar to what everyone has said, just the opportunity to work with, give back to, and inspire our fellow ADHDers, I do get goosebumps every day. Okay, I still have 15 seconds. I have clients in 6 countries. I'm a certified ADHD coach. I have 6 to 8 freelancers, depending on the day, that work with me to help me delegate things. And I'm finally doing work that matters. And that's the part that might make me cry, is because for most of my career, I didn't think that was ever going to happen. And I finally found it. And it's because of our community that I'm able to do that. Boom.
All right.
Well said. Well said. All right. You guys inspired me. I'm going to hit the timer as well. All right. Thanks for that, Ryan. That was awesome. And yeah, we got a boom and everything. Okay. Hey, everybody. So I'm the host, moderator, and also a panelist. My name's Aron Croft, and I'm going to give just a little bit of my background because I think it's helpful context for people. So I have kind of a weird background. I was a naturally good test taker growing up. I had a really good support structure in middle school and high school. And so I managed to graduate #1 in my high school, despite epic levels of procrastination, despite never reading a book cover to cover, but no one cares. I got good grades. And then I got into Harvard and everything was going to be amazing. And that was supposed to be the start of my successful life. And instead, it marked the beginning of 15 years of falling down a staircase of failure. So I dropped out twice before finally graduating. I failed out of my first 7 jobs and businesses. And I ended up at 33, broke, divorced, and earning minimum wage. And shortly thereafter, well, I got a master's degree in coaching psychology, and all these things are moving, and that's screwing around my ADHD. All right. A master's degree in coaching psychology and a diagnosis of inattentive ADHD, and that turned my life around. I went from being an underperformer to an overperformer. I got promoted 4 times in 6 years. And built a Fortune 500 career consulting to companies like Marriott, McDonald's, Johnson & Johnson, United Healthcare, and more. And then most recently as a senior manager at a Fortune 500 company. On the side, in addition to my full-time job, I built Hidden ADHD. So that looked like publishing over 25 articles, reading over 75 books, filming over 50 YouTube videos, working out 4 to 5 days a week, and ultimately growing this to over 100,000 followers and setting myself up where I could quit my corporate job. And so that's a little bit of my background. And with that, I'm just going to go through a few little ground rules or kind of how we're going to work, and we'll go from there. So firstly, I'm going to try to share my screen just to give you a preview of the questions. All right, now that screws up the panel, doesn't it? How do we make the screen littler? Anyone know?
Click on your little minimize button in the upper right. That's a start.
Yeah, if you have two screens, I'm on two screens, so I see
There's a slider
Aron.
bar in the middle, Aaron. There's
Yep.
a little white slider bar, and you're going to slide your
Adjust
bar
it.
to the left.
You have one screen, yeah.
Oh,
And then the
Oh,
Brady
do it
Bunch
on-
gets bigger.
The Brady Bunch populates.
Like that?
Look at all of us. We're like, we don't have words for you. We're just going to keep doing this because
Just
we don't
do this,
actually know
Aaron.
how to use
Do
words
this.
now. It's fine.
And the question he's asking is how does he see us? And we're doing visual examples.
I don't know if you're screen sharing. I don't know what to do.
Big Fry.
It's more just for the people watching at home, if they can see all of us,
Yeah.
or
makes
just the
sense.
speaker. Because if so, anyway, I'll stop screen sharing in a minute. So here's a kind of preview of some of the questions that are in there, and then what we've got is we have a fun picker wheel where these questions have been inserted, so that we're going to play a little bit of roulette.
Cool.
And
Pickerwheel.com.
I love those
Cool.
picker wheels. That's how I decide what I'm gonna have for dinner.
hey, I like
So
it.
cool.
So,
I made a planner
so we're
for
gonna
that, you guys.
little bit of
Which
fun
restaurant,
roulette.
Eric?
What was that, Dan?
I was just asking Eric if that means which restaurant you're going to go to.
Right? Because it's decide what all the restaurants you like, and then just put them on there, and then you don't have to keep making decisions.
There you go.
I made a
good
thing
idea.
for that, Eric. Remind me,
Yeah.
I'll send it to you.
Awesome.
I made a thing. It
Okay.
has dice. It's great.
So that's what we're gonna do, and then let me just quickly pull up my notes about how we're gonna tackle this. But I need to
Does
give
Ryan
you
have a
guys-
question, or does he just have his hand up for fun?
Thanks for asking. I raised it earlier, but because it's up in the clouds, I forgot that it was there. And when I pressed it, it moved me, which messed with Aron. So I was like, I'm just not gonna. Yeah, it was me.
Unpressed. Thank you.
Is that all
right.
it takes to mess with Aron?
That's it.
Yeah, I am very messable with.
See, it moves. But what I was going to say to Aron
Oh my
was,
God.
isn't this aren't we supposed to brag about ourselves? Because at first he started off and he built it, so that's why I didn't say anything. Because I'm like, Aron, man, you're doing great.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Right?
He's
All right,
building.
good.
Let's get to the wheel.
We're going to get to the wheel, to Dr. Pomeroy's point. So all I'm going to say on this is that, so panelists, here's the thing. If you're moved to answer the question, just jump in. I think if we spend about 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the question, then I'll try to move us along. So we might only get 2 or 3 panelists' answers. So if you're moved to answer, jump on in. The other thing is that I do encourage crosstalk between the panelists while answering. So we don't have to have this be like a regimented thing that it has to flow through the moderator. So feel free to like respond live to each other's comments. And with that, we will kick it off. So ready? Spin.
Ready.
No whammy, no whammy.
Aaron, I'm
feel
going to
like
ask you.
we need
if you
Price is
stop
Right
sharing
music.
your screen. so
I'm
we
not
can
sharing
see
my
each other.
screen.
No, you are sharing the screen.
Okay.
Yeah. If you can
All
stop.
right. What were
doing
the
that.
top 3 things that made the most impact on your productivity and success?
I feel those are
I'll
two
come
different
I'll
questions.
come up with one of them, and this was from a little half-day thing I went to, and it was on time management, and it was probably in the first 3 months I started practice. And the people who were doing it call it a chrono book, and it's basically one of those, stenographer, if they even have stenographers anymore, books that has the line down in there. So each day day date goes on the top. My schedule of patients I put on this side. And then either a couple things I got to remember to do, or if I've made a phone call or get one, I can put notes about that. And down here, I put a little circle of stuff I'm supposed to remember to bring from home. And I keep on advancing that with the same things in it for 3 or 4 days until I finally remember. But I can put a note on what I need to do for a given patient right at the time of the visit. And I think I'm up to about 30 books, but basically all 16 years is in these books. It's
Love
been
it.
great.
It's cool.
Who else?
I did something super similar in college. I used Moleskine notebooks, but it's very much the same thing. And I was able to pick up on Google Calendar really early. That was one of the very few very, very smart choices I made in college. It's one of the only reasons I didn't actually fail out. I just almost failed out several times. So it's one of the things that if I'm working with people, one of my biggest suggestions is that is the only thing you're working to implement, is to making sure you're not dropping balls, because the amount of stress it adds to you as a human feeling like you're dropping every single ball. Don't try and do everything. Pick one thing that's going to affect the most of your life. And in my case, it was not missing my assignments, blah, blah, blah. Now it's not missing my kids' appointments. It's not missing client meetings. It's not a lot of things, but that was maybe the number one. Even though I literally design planners for a living, Google Calendar is what keeps me from losing every amount of shit I have in a day. Like it's the only thing that keeps me on track. My sister is also my executive director, and she knows that if she doesn't put it on my calendar, it doesn't exist, as does my husband, as does my nanny. So like if they're not there, they should not expect me to be present in brain or body. Like I can't. Sorry, I'm out. So that's kind of, you have to find the tool, find your tool. And we get more tools. We actually get more tickets to find our tool. ADHD folks will go through exponentially more tool finding than most neurotypicals will. And there's no shame in that. The tools aren't built for us, so we have to adapt them, and it takes a little bit longer, and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay. So,
And we're
My
going to
problem
lose
is
tools.
I have 3 tools to do the same thing, and I forget which one I'm using when.
that is tricky.
So they're parts of the day in 3 different places.
That can be tricky, but also a good reminder sometimes, because sometimes I'll forget that I've left it in this other tool, and then we find it, and it's good. So
As long as it's on my phone, it might happen.
I think too, sometimes like even realizing that, often we think the tool is not working. It's like, no, we just got bored of the tool. Like the tool's fine, but we got bored of it.
Right.
So like in my coaching groups, people are like, oh, what's like the one app? It's like, there is no one app. I've downloaded all of them to get the experience to tell you that there is no perfect app.
No.
Because all of them have a shelf life of like somewhere between a week to a month, maybe a few months at best. Right? To-do list apps, feel free to like switch them just for novelty purposes. Just for novelty, right?
Absolutely.
Calendars are harder to switch, but I think that your to-do list app, like I'm in Asana, sometimes I'm in Trello. So the question about three things for productivity and success. So I came up with 7. Exercise is, I'm telling you, like I didn't exercise today and it affected my day. Like days that I exercise intensely, like I am so much more productive. Planning and time blocking is huge. Actually coaching people with ADHD, because it kind of forces me to be thinking about my own ADHD all day long, every day. Meds, I would not have got through college if I did not have meds. This is probably the biggest one, and that's doing less and saying no more often.
boundaries.
Yes, and creating margin in your day. Like my ideal is I have no more, like the max 60 to 70% of my workday is scheduled, right? That includes like meetings and things that I want to do, right? I make sure, because all the things that I've planned to do that I think will take an hour will take 3, right? Like, so having that spillover, and there's so many things that I have the opportunities to do that are super interesting. And I used to say yes, especially in the beginning of my business, to all of these opportunities. And I'm sure most of you who are here listening to this have experienced probably either intense overwhelm, if not panic attacks, right?
Yeah.
My insistence on doing less, keeping very narrow in my sort of lane of what I'm doing, and saying no often, comes from being really sick and tired of constantly feeling profoundly overwhelmed and having panic attacks.
Mhm.
Right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, we can't do it all, at least not all at one time.
Well said. Well said, Eric. All right, let's keep
trying.
All right, let's give it a whirl. Hopefully you get the audio effects this time, so they're pretty fun.
Wow. It adds something.
And it sounds like a metal detector.
Oh,
I know, I was gonna tell you to wait for it. All right, what are some ways I can work with my ADHD brain instead of against it? Coach Ryan Mayer.
So following up on what Dr. P and Brittany B had to say earlier, I call this my butterfly net because it captures my ideas as they go floating away. It's like, get back over here. Neurotypicals, and including my wife, I have to be careful because she's with the kids in the kitchen, don't always agree with like how efficient or the way that maybe we should do something.
Who cares?
But exactly. But it
Here.
you can't always force your brain to try to do the should. So writing something down just feels so much better and easier to me, and it helps me to remember it. So that's what I do. So I just want to encourage everyone who's listening and watching, do the thing that's going to help you to get the thing done, even if other people don't understand why.
Who cares if it works for someone else? I mean, that's sort of the underlying premise of what I want my clients to walk away with, is really understanding what works for them, like how they work best, how they organize things naturally, how they're like their weird little idiosyncrasies and quirks and all of that stuff. If you can build your life around those things that are natural to you, your systems, your tools, who cares if it makes sense to anybody else, right? If it works for you, that's what you're going to be able to stick to. And then if you know why a task management system works for you, or you know what it is about your calendar that supports you and how you use it, it doesn't matter what tool you're using. I mean, I'm shaking my project management system up all the time. And it doesn't matter because the fundamentals are there, because I know what I need to have in place to support me in a way that I can follow through. It's like, I always tell my clients, it's like it's like trying to run Windows software on a Mac. When you're trying to plug yourself into someone else's way of doing things, no matter whether you want to be just like them, or you think you're just like them, or you think it's the best system ever, you're going to end up struggling. I mean, your dopamine deficiency, your motivation challenge, all that stuff's going to win. There's no need to. I mean, I have some of the weirdest processes. People, when I hire staff, I'm like, okay, this is how I do this. And it's okay if you don't think it's the best way.
I mean, what is your weirdest process?
Oh,
I'm
I've
gonna
got
tell you
some
mine
weird.
too.
Well said, Eric.
People always ask me like about filing and how you store things. And I'm like, what makes sense to me for filing is even hard for me to understand. But I have like these super general buckets of files where most shit goes. But then I've got these uber specific files for things that I need to find like quickly or frequently. So I'm trying to think of an example. I might have a whole file of like all of my business receipts, but I'm going to keep a file for this is a really bad example, but like the screen protector I just bought for my iPhone that has a warranty that I'm going to need to put my fingers on. If I shove that even in an iPhone file, I'm never going to find the right one. It's very odd. It doesn't make sense to anybody else. If I try to find stuff in my husband's files, it doesn't make any sense to me. He's never going to find anything in my files either. And I don't care.
Yeah.
I want to piggyback on Eric's question and what Lynn and Ryan were sharing. So this is actually a question that's in there, but I'm going to bring it up just because I feel like it's kind of fun, and because as a moderator, I can do that. So the question is sort of along this line of like, are you neat and organized? And here's the challenge. Here's the challenge to the panelists. you get bonus points if you're willing to. And I think Lynne, I'm going to credit Lynne with this idea in our conversation, to show your workspace. So like tilt your camera and like we'll go one by one. And because I'm the one kind of throwing you under the bus, and because mine is very ugly, I will go first. So here is, oh, hold on, I'm snagged.
There's your ceiling.
Oh, hold on, we got yep, there's the ceiling. Hold on.
Oh, Aron.
All right, there we go. So
What a feeling to be working on the
Look at your
ceiling.
I've got like
I love your
random
poses.
reminders on the wall, and then I've got random reminders here. And these are like not things I need to do. They're just these are like more like things like
Motivational.
So
your inner
organized.
voice is not logical. The criticism wasn't designed to help me. Stuff like that. And then I've got like all the timers, and
Oh my goodness.
and I've got my ring light, and I've got here's like one of my main filing systems where I keep
Oh
like
my goodness.
stacks of Post-its, and here is where I keep the rest of my files on the floor near me. I do actually have an organization system for them, but I like having them reachable. So, you know, I know that other people may be neat and organized, but it's not necessarily a requirement for success with ADHD. All right.
It's got to be functional, right? And my functional is different than somebody else's functional. And I'm actually embarrassed to show my office today because I cleaned it. And I'm like a pile maker. I call my sort of organizational style, I'm like a clusterer. So I keep if I have a project going, I will have stacks of stuff depending on what the project is, kind of like all around me on the floor. And I just cleaned all of that up, and I wish I could show it to you guys. My office is not bad right now, but I'm trying to do this without my webcam falling off or anything.
Right.
I have 2 desks. The desk over my shoulder or whatever is the desk where I coach. Normally I've got like a bunch of notebooks that I'm taking notes in or whatever. That rack back there has at least 6 or so different notebooks in it. That's sort of part of my process, my system. I don't know if you can see, I got a big old bin of things that are waiting for action, and I stack my Post-its. So I have so many times over the years lost Post-its, or they stick to stuff or whatever. So I usually leave my Post-its on the pad. So I have a whole stack of Post-it pads with Post-its on top of them. I'm trying to see.
I can't do those inbox trays, Lynn. They just they literally just pile up, and then they stress me out, and I just would need to tip it in the garbage or something.
So for me, my thing is I have just a little to-do notebook that's always in there. There's a book I'm trying to work my way through that it's been in there for months, frankly, that it's going to go on the shelf or going to go in the donation. I'm not telling. You may know the
How to
author.
keep your desk clean.
What's that? How to keep your desk clean, right?
Yeah,
but my thing is, the tray's only like a little over an inch tall. So when the tray starts to crest with crap, it makes me anxious. And that's my kind of my cue to go through the tray, because usually what's in the tray is just weird random stuff that I have to hang on to for some weird reason. And I'm afraid that if I file it, I'm never going to find it. So it's the referral form for the doctor's appointment. Yeah, well,
it's a valid form of organization.
50 some years of experience has taught me that I need to accommodate that. Right.
Yeah. Here, I'll show you guys mine. Hold on. Oh, you're going to go. You go.
All right. I want to see.
I'm very embarrassed, except for one part of my desk. I'll start on that part, which is a total mess,
snacks,
as you can see.
And snacks.
It's got 2 of my work Bibles. One is Prescriber's Guide Essential Psychopharmacology, and the other is DSM-5. I know where those are. This is my inbox. That's where NJ, my one employee, puts things like you have to sign this. And it's also the outbox when the green folder that I've signed things in goes back in. The organized part is here. And that is my chrono pad, whatever I'm drinking at the time, office phone, usually Sharpie isn't there, red pen that left, and the other pen. So if I have something specifically I have to follow up with a patient, I write it in red. Otherwise, things are in regular pen. And that follows the Ned Hallowell system. Whatever else is on the desk, if there's a 3 square foot place where you write what you're doing or do the writing or whatever, that's organized.
I like what you said about the red versus the other, because like one of the things that I'm obsessed with is this multi-point pen. And people used to make fun of me at my Fortune 500 jobs because they're like, this is like a weird thing. But this is like the savior because I could write in different colors.
Wait, is that a thin version of like the old school? Like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I thought that it was like I thought it was
Whoa.
like a executive presence corporate version, but based
Or-
on the teasing I got, I'm guessing it wasn't.
I'd end up forgetting to push
No
the
way, it's
thing and
legit.
I'd write it in
Yeah.
black and red.
Yeah. All right, here I'm gonna go.
Yeah,
All right,
go,
so
Brittany.
this is it's a little bit tricky because I'm at my office and I built my office. I'm a human that my house is very rarely ever clean, but I tidy every single night because I can't do the thing if there's clutter everywhere. I'm one of
Right.
those. Though, if you open any closet, any drawer, any basket, anything, rarely is it not like it's like Monica's secret closet in Friends. That's what everything in my house is like. So if you walk in at all, it usually looks very, people are like, what? No. And then they open some, they're like, okay, I get it. So yeah, with the caveat of that, my place looks pretty clean. So this is my studio. Those are sound tiles. It's echoey in here. But this is literally the spot that I'm working right now. And this will be cleared before I leave tonight because I'm psycho. It'll have to be like, I literally cannot leave until it is picked up. Like that's a brain thing that I just have developed. But if I leave it, then I panic. Like I panic knowing it's there. Maybe a touch of the OCD that's undiagnosed. It's fine. We can talk to Dr. David about that. But anyway, that's all of our product stuff. Again, if I show you inside of each of those buckets, they're a shit show, every single one. But they all have like, one has like adhesive things. So there's like tape and glue and hot glue guns in there, but like it's a hot mess in there, but it's all in there. So I can find it eventually kind of. And then none of those make sense to any of my employees. My sister's like, can you please go organize this? I literally can't find anything. And I'm like, well,
They
I
are
can't- no.
organized.
I
Right.
can't. So they look much more organized than they are, but if I pull even like they're all just like filled with crap. And then the rest of my space, that's my greenery wall. This is the spot that's the sensory deprivation chamber. That's a sign that says fuck off. I don't know if you guys can see it. And there's black curtains and you can hide in there on a comfy, like it's like a love sack or whatever. I'm in the way of it. But it's basically if we don't want to talk to anybody, because all of my employees are neurodivergent. So if we're in a spot where we're like, I can't with you or like anybody else right now, we just go in the cave. You just go in the cave and
I
listen in there.
want that, Brittany. Can you sell like a just in a box version? 'Cause
Starter kit.
I would buy that.
Get a
Fuck off cave
pop-up
starter
kit,
kit.
put it in the room.
And then
That's
this is
awesome.
kind of our upstairs office because there's so many of us. Oh, I'm not doing this very well. It's easier for us to like keep it semi-tidy so that all of us aren't panicking over each other's mess, but it's all kind of just, there's piles, like lots of piles. And then we do keep product really organized. That's probably one of the things that I'm a little bit obsessive about just because if we don't know where it is or like how many we have, then we can't reorder, stuff like that. So yeah, anywho, that's my space.
David's comment was amazing, where he says,
Yeah.
where your son said, "Is this one of the times where we have to clean up before the party and pretend we don't have a toaster?"
Yeah.
That is
Every
so
time.
funny.
We just hit it. We just hit
Every
it.
time.
No.
All right. Should we move on to a new question, or did Eric and Ryan?
Do you guys wanna
wanna
share your space?
I'll also, if one of you wants to share, I'll also start a poll so that our audience can say if they want us to start a new question or not.
There you go.
I'll share real quick while do that. So okay, so here's my desk, sky view. All right, so I have my soundboard there, an array of various sticky notes, my other monitor. I have my keyboard back there. I have a bunch of stuff that's actually not even plugged in. That's been there for months. I have some random stuff over there. Plenty plastic spoons because and forks that are just on the floor, and that's where they stay. Because I literally won't get up to eat lunch if I have to get up sometimes. So it's
I like the
literally-
soup in a cup. Those guys
Yeah.
are nice.
And give
Yeah,
us
great.
give us the rest of the 30-second tour. So we
Okay.
got 72% of
Okay.
people that want us to
Okay,
move to a
there's
different
my my inbox. It's just I have no idea what's even in there. I have bookshelves behind there. Floor fan because I get hot. There's my Tupperware container. There is. See if I can zoom in on that. Let's see. So this is actually something new that I started doing recently. So my assistant will kind of let me know what I need to be focusing on. Sorry, I'm making all of you seasick here. So it tells me what's going on today, this week, and stuff that's coming up for the month. I have one of those drawer thingies. I have no idea. Every time I'm looking for something, I know it's in one of the drawers, and I literally have to open each one twice to find the thing I'm looking for. So that's my office in a nutshell.
All right. Well, kudos to all of you for being willing to let us in behind the scenes. That was really fun. So thank you. All right. Despite the seasickness. Okay. We are going to spin.
Some of the answers in the chat, the stuff in the chat's hilarious too.
Yeah.
I haven't been looking. I should go look. The music is the most.
Right? It's just amazing.
Wow.
What do we think? Do we want this question?
Kind of similar to the first question.
It's kind of similar, yeah, I think.
All right. Well, we'll spin the wheel
We can
again.
go.
As you're spinning,
You guys
I would
just want to hear
just-
the noise again.
I was going to second
do.
what Eric said about exercise. And if you guys haven't looked up Dr. John Rady's book about Spark, look it up.
Oh, yes. And if you have never played pickleball, I want to just put a shout out for any pickleball players out
There it
there.
is. Dr. P knows what's up.
Yeah. It's right on the
All
bookshelf.
right. And I feel like that also is sort of an answer to this. What do you guys think on this one?
Can we put that book in the comments, somebody, so I remember it later?
Yeah.
Because I'll forget. Thank you.
Yep, got it.
Panelists, what do you think of this question? Is there something you know that we might not? For instance, was there one big insight or discovery on your journey that made a huge difference?
I think the big thing is realizing how much what was going on between my ears was like the fundamental sort of foundation of what was getting in my way. The self-talk, the blame, the shame, when I could start to shift that and change that. And it's not, I don't know what the word is. It's a deeper level of acceptance. It's like surrendering
mindset.
to the fact that I've got weird ways that I do shit, and I'm okay with that. And that my way of doing things isn't necessarily better than, worse than anybody else's, just different. That the mindset stuff was the biggest insight to me.
To me,
Yeah.
one of the things that I realized, and I think everybody with ADHD has it, but of course I don't talk to many neurotypical people during the course of my day. So we have an associational mind. It's not sequential. You don't go here to here to here to here. I'm riffing off something, either my own thoughts or somebody says something, and I think, oh yeah, oh, and then that reminds me about this. And there's stuff I'm remembering from 17 years ago or whatever. And I come up with here. And first of all, the person says, hello, you weren't with me. Yeah, but I was here and I went to here, and I got there. Wait a minute. I can't even tell where I've been because it happened so fast. That's how we are creative. That's how we invent things. That's how we come up with different ideas. And I just think that's cool.
It is cool. It's really
That's
cool. I played a game with my daughter, and she's 22 now, but she'll still play the game with me every now and then. I'll say something that seems random, and she'll say, connect the dots for me, mommy. And I will say, okay, I saw this that made me think of that, that made me think of that, that made me remember this, that made me remember, that's why I said that. And then she
The
says,
7
oh,
degrees of
okay.
Kevin Bacon.
I love it.
It's called the 7
Exactly,
degrees
but
of
it's
Kevin
kind of,
Bacon, but you do it with stuff.
in my
instead of with
own
people.
thoughts,
Yeah.
right? Just it's
love it.
whatever comes out that seems random isn't random at all. It's just it's a very fast connection of dots and thoughts, and like a big old web.
I just
I would
want to
say
remind
mine
everyone real quick in the
is, oh,
chat.
you go,
I'm,
babe.
I'm seeing some people put in the chat directly to hosts and panelists. Make sure it's to everybody so everyone that's
Mhm.
here sees it.
Thank you.
Thanks,
That's
Eric.
helpful. I was going to
I would
go
say
off of
mine
what.
was, oh, you go.
No. Okay.
Okay.
What Dr. P and Lynn said about just kind of rolling with it and riffing, and some of my best conversations as an ADHD coach are the ones where like I can make up an analogy on the spot and describe it to the person, and they're like, yes, like that describes what I've been going through. And when I started that conversation, I had no idea that's what I'm like, okay,
Yes.
at this point
Yep.
in the conversation, I'm going to give this analogy. It's like, no, it just happens. And that is beautiful. And the thing that my answer for this question, though, similar to what Lynn said earlier, who cares what they think? It was pretty much an epiphany. I was asked to give a speech to a faith group I'm part of. And it was like, what's the biggest lesson you've learned? And it just kind of hit me. And I was like, whoa. And the lesson was, I was measuring my own self-worth based on the opinion of other people. So it was whether it was the performance evaluations at the 2 different jobs that I got fired from because of my ADHD, or whether it was someone disappointed because I ran late to a thing, or if it was something I was coming up with in my mind that wasn't actually true, but all of it was based on what I thought other people thought of me. And to Lynn's point, it's just getting to that place of serenity. And I call it TUA, total unconditional acceptance, where it's just, we're going to mess up. All of us are going to mess up. It doesn't matter, how successful you are or how much money you have or whatever. None of us is perfect. So just realizing like I can't measure myself up against neurotypical standards or performance evals. I just have to be my authentic self.
Got to celebrate
Yeah.
our neurodivergence.
Celebrate it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So mine is
Thanks.
actually a shout out to the coaches. My biggest epiphany came when I started therapy, and my therapist is a neurodivergent therapist. She's basically an ADHD coach. We just do other therapeutic things with it because she's a therapist. But when I tell you, people ask me a lot, did meds make the biggest difference for you? And I said, no, I still ran a 6-figure company before I even found out I had ADHD. It did not make the biggest difference for me. The biggest difference for me was changing my mindset, and how I did that was therapy. So whether it's with an ADHD coach or a therapist, whatever modality is best for you, or a psychiatrist, whatever modality is appropriate for your brain and your situation and where you are, a lot of people don't need meds. A lot of people just need a situation change based on what's happening with them, and they have rework what's happening for them. Meds aren't always appropriate, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to be like, I can't get diagnosed, so I'm never going to be successful. That's some bullshit, friends. That's some bullshit. And it's not it. I promise you can actually read books, you can watch podcasts or listen to podcasts, you can watch YouTube videos. There's so many things you can do to be reworking the data that's coming into your brain, because what you're feeding your brain is what it will continue to put out. So if you're feeding your brain with things that are good ideas, systems, people that are having really positive thoughts, affirmations, things of that, it's going to come out of your mouth and your body and your productivity and your brain. So that was my biggest one, was taking it out of my brain, putting it in somebody else's, and letting her organize those Christmas lights into nice organized piles for me. So yeah.
One of the I remember it was about 2 or 3 years ago. I was sharing something in one of my coaching group sessions, and I was like really kind of hesitant to even say this, because I felt that it felt very like sort of narcissistic, sort of like, or self-centered. And so what I shared was, and the feedback that I got from all the members of my group was like, thank you so much for sharing this. And that is, if you want to be successful when you have ADHD, you have to bend the world to you, because the world is not bending the other way. And it's what you have to do. Right. And that's, if you were to call my phone and get my voicemail, it says, don't leave me a message. Like, I give you instructions on how to schedule something with me on my website, because I'm not going to call you back if you leave me a message. Right. Like, unless you tell me I'm the voicemail that you understand, I'm not going to call you back, then I'll probably actually call you back. I know.
I love it. That's good. Yeah. I mean, I think I think that like and I think Brian and Eric mentioned it earlier, and all of us touched on it in varying degrees, but one of the things that's been most effective for myself and for my clients has just been the idea of doing less. So I stopped trying to get it all done. I stopped trying to be efficient for 8 hours a day. And I just realized that my brain is a bit of a delicate flower, and it just tires a little bit more easily than others. And so when I realized that I couldn't outwork a lot of people, I then just said, okay, well, I'm going to be really selective over the things I choose to work on. Kind of to Eric's point around bending things. I moved a bunch of morning meetings to the afternoon. I cleared out some time, and I put away all distractions and just focused on those few things. And I found that a lot of those were the things that actually moved the needle forward every day and every week and every month. And it wasn't whether or not I was up to date on responding to emails. I'm not overly quick on that. I wasn't very good at responding to instant messages, but I was getting the important things done. And I think just accepting my own limitations at working more was really transformative in my ability to get results.
Based on what Aron said, I work nights. I work after my kids go to bed because I'm most productive from about 8 p.m. until midnight. And a lot of people aren't, and that's okay, but I am. So when I try to make myself work during the day, it's useless. I go and run errands during the day so that when I hit 8 p.m. and my kids are in bed, my husband's watching YouTube or whatever it is he does, I can focus with my headphones on, and that's when I do my deep work, like the depth of design work, the things that really need to get done. And that's okay. There's nothing that says I need to be working in the 8 to 5 space. That's nonsense. I get my work done when it's best for me, and that's really valuable. And when I stopped shaming myself for that, I got a lot more done. So
yeah, I love that, Brittany, because like just those workflows and like just energy flows. I mean, like I'm useless in the afternoons. I can do coaching sessions because it's almost like a body doubling thing because there's people and like I can focus for people.
Yeah.
But like
external motivation.
I don't have very good energy. I don't have very good focus. I can't get really anything of value done. But I used to judge myself for that in the past. And I think, as you said, kind of realizing like, yeah, that's just how I work. And that like definitely opened things up. All right, let's hop to the next question. We're going to spin the wheel. And by the way, people, audience members, let us know in the chat if you want me to hide the wheel or hide the question while we're talking or not. I don't know how it looks on your end. All right, I'll take 3 answers.
Sassy question, Aron.
It is a sassy question.
Hey, these are from our audience.
Okay.
No.
Carla has asked us to hide the wheel.
Hide the wheel.
Hide the wheel.
You can if you want to. Maybe they can't see us all as well. It is.
I'm gonna jump in with the question.
Good.
Yeah, go, Lynn.
So I think every single one of us has our own superpowers. If your ADHD characteristics, if you could tap into those, they can become part of your superpowers. But I don't think anything in life is very healthy, helpful if you take that kind of all or nothing approach, right? There's shit that I have to deal with every day because I have ADHD that's infinitely harder for me than it is for someone else. But there are also things that are much easier for me or that are part of my strengths that are connected to my ADHD characteristics. So I don't think anything's all good or all bad. I think, I have different good stuff than my husband, who is like the least ADHD person in the entire world, Mr. Engineer, linear, logical, but his stuff's not any better than my stuff. It's just his stuff, right? So that's my 2 cents.
Anyone else?
I would say that I am vastly more creative than most people I've ever met in my life, and I can tell you without a doubt it is because of how I associate. Like it has nothing to do with other than my brain existing the way that it exists. So in that respect, the ability to be able to knock literally any creative venture I've ever done out of the park. And I don't say that with non-humility. It's literally, I just do. I could pick up pottery and I'm good at it. And it's really weird. And it's just one of those things I just am. That being said, my ADHD tax, when I print the same thing wrong 14 times in a row, is like exhausting to do. It's just, when I literally made, oh my God, there was a whole post about it one day because I was like crying on the floor because I printed it wrong like 14 times and they didn't have that vellum anywhere else and I couldn't get any more. It was a moment. But that being said, I think the superpower, much like Lynn said, is a really weighted term because that implies that there's something that makes somebody not a superhero, and that's not cute. I don't like that. So I don't know. I would say I'm happy to keep it. I'm not going to get rid of it because it makes me very successful. I'm gonna keep it, but keep the things around you that help. Right. Yeah.
My superpower is hyperfocus. I get an idea. It's usually at about 6:45, and I have to write a letter to some insurer trying to defend why a person has to have a medication. And I just get so incensed that I switch off the letter and I write 3 pages of tightly reasoned stuff and organize it and rewrite it as I'm going. And then it's 8:15 and time is gone. I'm just right there. Then I still have an hour of work to finish up the day.
Isn't that flow though versus hyperfocus? See, I think that often people.
I like flow.
Yeah, because to me, hyperfocus is like you saw the exit and you kept going, right? And you kept going and you kept going.
I think of it. Okay, it's a flow. I go into that thought. It's kind of like, okay, Luke Skywalker at the very end of the first, that was the fourth, et cetera, et cetera. He gets into that channel of stuff and just, there he is. Turn off that stupid computer and go with it. And when I start writing something, that's where I go.
I think hyperfocus. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I love words. I love putting words together. I cannot do it nearly as well when I'm speaking and trying to, talk about serious stuff and have a conversation. But when I can write it down, I love it.
I think the flow, and I always say everybody's different, right? But for me, the flow starts with hyperfocus. All right, and hyperfocus kind of properly managed or well managed and well directed is flow for me. But there's another kind of hyperfocus too that, the other side of that is just
the reading books at 4 a.m. type.
Oh yeah. I mean, I always go back to the, when my kids were little, my husband used to say, and he was not wrong. Of course, it really pissed me off, but he said, I don't think it's safe for you to read when you're home alone with the kids. And of course, I didn't tell him that, like, I totally flaked out and my 6 or 7 or however old, year old son was at the time told me where he was going. And I said, and kept reading, and then realized like, oh my gosh, there are 100 incidents like that. So he wasn't wrong. And of course, then there's the whole, on a work night, reading a book, realizing the sun's coming up, going, oh shit, I have to go to work tomorrow. And now I've got to call in sick, whatever. We've all been down those paths. It isn't always reading. But when you can channel that positively, and yourself well enough to know where you're most likely and when you're most likely to get yourself into trouble, and you can put some guide rails up for yourself ahead of time, that can be a wonderful thing.
Love it. All right. Let's hop to the next one. So it sounds like, at least in the chat, that there's a lot of people that don't like the wheel. So if there's a bunch of wheel advocates, feel free to put that in the chat. However, I spun the wheel on my own. So that here is the next question, which I'll put into the chat. All right. And to Eric's point, if you can put your messages to everyone. All right. So next question, and we'll take 2 or 3 people. How did you commit to one career path or side hustle when so many interest you, when you have so many interests?
I I knew in 7th grade that I was going to be a doctor. Not that I
That's
wanted
awesome.
to be a doctor.
I love that.
I was going to. Had no idea how to get there. I didn't know what it meant to do it, but I was going to do it. There were no doctors in my family, but that's what was there. And through a whole string of a lot of fortunate events, I got to med school, and then I guess more fortunate events came along, but I
That's
was
so
doing
great.
what I wanted to do.
My guidance counselor asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, because you know that's what they're supposed to do. And she goes, she asked me, and I said, I want to be an artist. She's like, and I said, and I don't want to wake up before 9 a.m. She said, that's not sustainable. And I said, watch me. And alas, here we are. So I was a photographer for 10 years, and I didn't do it because I love photography. I did it because it was an art thing that I could get paid to do. So it's interesting that if you can find your area of hyper focus, if you will, and find a way to monetize it, sometimes you can hustle around it and still keep those things either as hobbies or as like side things that do work really well for you. That's okay. You don't have to narrow down what you're doing. If I were to go through all of the ways that I like even still side hustle, even now I have employees and S corp, I'm still hustling in weird ways, you guys. You don't have to not do that. I just usually pick the thing that's making me the most money and is the most fun at the same time, and that's where my focus is. So that's what I do. I don't think it's wrong. I also am 35 and I switched my career a year ago, so I think that's okay too. Like,
one of the things that I think was so helpful for me was so I had this thing where I was always trying to like find my passion, and if I could just find my passion, or maybe if I could just work for myself, then I could finally kind of be motivated and like keep at work. And there was a shift where what I discovered was that, yes, it's nice to know my interests, and I've always been interested in personal development. But what I discovered was the skills, my transferable skills that I like to use, because those apply all sorts of places. So once I understood that I really enjoy analysis and problem solving, and I really enjoy coming up with streamlined solutions like to inefficient problems, and like really kind of like streamlining, making things more efficient, I was able to then find career paths because I needed income and employment, and it gave me a great opportunity to learn that I got to use those skills. And as long as I was using the skills that were really fun, it didn't feel hard. And then when I finally made the switch to coaching, I could evaluate it through the lens of those skills, where I said, okay, if I'm really going to enjoy this business, I'm going to have to really bring these aspects in. So like, you know, I'm very big on like, what is the minimum viable dose, like the minimum effective dose? What is the least amount of planning that's going to get us the most amount? What is the 80-20? What are the few actions? Because I don't really like working that hard. And so if I can just find those, then my ADHD brain is happy. So that's it for me.
I wanted to share another secret that I've shared with people, and they're like, "Wait, what?" And that's work doesn't have to feel hard.
Imagine that, right?
Wait, what? Wait,
I love
what?
working. Like, I love it. I love it.
Like,
I love what I do.
95% of the work that I do, I love it.
I love it.
I think you might have just hit, and Brittany's agreeing and others are nodding, the ADHD secret to success. We are not going to grit ourselves through success because we're just gonna eject.
We will go down in flames. I mean, it is,
And
if you
it's not
try
cute.
to, right.
Dumpster fire.
There was a question earlier in the chat about like, what if the job is not a fit for your brain? Be clear
it out.
that it's not the field, but it might be the work environment, the particular
Absolutely.
setting.
Yeah.
Right. I see too many people who they're like, they go get this job, they majored in something, and they're like, oh, this is not a good field for them. Like, wait a minute, this is your first job in this field. Like, the space you're in might suck. Like, you might work in a toxic work environment. Like,
Yeah.
I
The
think that is
people you're
so
with.
important to really
Absolutely.
like find the environments that, because I've as a social worker, I've worked in environments that have been great. I've worked in environments that like were not. Like when I used to work in residential, I was the clinical program director for a group home, and I loved it, except for like the 90-hour work weeks and always on call, and like having to come in at 3 a.m. because one of our kids like ran away. Like, that to me was awful. When I, on top of that, I had to write like 30-page reports when we had a new kid come in. Like, the paperwork killed me. And so one of the reasons I switched from being because I am a licensed clinical social worker, but I work as a coach, because like I hate paperwork. Like when I first started my practice as a therapist, 6 months I took insurance for, and I swear it was going to put me in like the psych hospital because I was having panic attacks. I'm like, I just did all this work and I'm not going to get paid because like I was on the phone with the insurance company for 30 minutes and now I just got disconnected. Like, holy shit, it's not even worth calling back. Like, it's so I'm like, you know what? I want to create something that works for me. Right. So I changed as a cash pay practice. Then I started doing my podcast. Then on an impulsive whim, I announced this idea for a coaching group. This was not a thought out plan, by the way. Right. And I'm like, I'll have more information for you next week on ADHD Rewired. And then for the next 8 weeks, I kept saying that because I was trying to figure out like, what the hell did I just get myself into? Right. And then I figured out the first one, like so much of my business, I have been laying down the tracks as the train has been coming. Right.
Yeah.
And I think we don't have to know step A to step Z. We got to know step A and where step B is. Get to step B.
I'm literally working on something right now that I'm obsessed with, and other people that are neurodivergent were obsessed with it, and they were like, "You should probably sell those." And I was like, "Okay." So right now I'm literally assembling it to like list it to potentially sell. This happened in the last 3 days. Like, it's like this exact literally happening right now.
Pretty
that example. Train tracks laying happening.
Right.
All the
Got
time.
it. I was like, wait, where's the connection? Oh, now I got it. Okay.
There it is.
Right.
Train
I
tracks,
love it.
You got it.
And I
announced. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Those of us with ADHD, we have very varied and diverse interests, right? So many of us are like jacks of many trades. And that doesn't mean master of none necessarily. I hate that second part of that expression. I have done like all kinds of stuff that I'm actually pretty good at for money or for, I mean, if I go through like the kinds of things that I've done, my hobbies, it's weird. Superficially, there's very little like connection, but there are common threads for me. Like, I like to build stuff. I like to create stuff, like, and build it and mess with it and see what different things make. So I owned and managed a bunch of rental properties that I used to maintain myself and do my own repairs. And I learned how to do, plumbing and electrical and drywall and, all that crap, just kind of out of necessity. But then I was a freelance writer for a little while. And then I worked in policy. Well, I worked in policy and research for a long time. So the writing thing is kind of connected, but I've sung in a band. I mean, it's all kind of weird stuff, but it's all part of like who I am and what I'm interested in. And the thing I always encourage my clients is like, your brain is wired to like lots of different things. You don't have to pick just one, right? If there's one thing you're doing right now that's paying the bills, that's okay. If you don't love it, make sure you're getting plenty of those other things in your life too, because that's the stuff that keeps the tank full.
There you go.
Right.
Yep.
That's the stuff that feeds your soul, so to speak.
You'll flail without it.
Keeps you going. Right. You're going to be miserable if you feel like you can't do that stuff, or, like a lot of my clients feel like they need to earn that stuff by getting enough done. It's amazing what we can accomplish when we play first and work later sometimes.
All right, I'm gonna do one more spin, and I know there are some like burning questions around how we tackle big projects, especially when they're not due, that we might kind of ad lib. So we'll do one more spin, and then we'll go from there. And I will stop sharing as soon as we spin. So thank you all for the feedback.
Ooh, I have this one.
Okay.
Hold on. All right.
Go for it, Brittany.
This is literally the basis of my planner, so I'm going to be very specific. I call them priorities with consequences. And the one thing that made a giant difference in my life is figuring out what my consequences were. So is it going to cost me time, money, sleep? What is it going to cost me to not get this done today? That needs to be reanalyzed every single morning, because something that was a cost yesterday might not be the same cost today. They don't always maintain. So you have to kind of take a look at what's happening around you. I don't plan further out, with the exception of like forecasting for business stuff. I don't plan what I'm going to do for the whole week anymore, because every time I do, I don't do it. So it's silly. It doesn't work for me. I plan my next day the night before I go to bed. That's when I plan. And that's why my planner is a one day. And if I don't even always do it every day, because that's not always valid. Like if I know the next day is going to be shipping, I don't need a freaking planner to do shipping. I know what I'm doing. It's just the shipping. Like it's fine. I don't need a planner for that day. But I also know that I will lose customers, lose money, lose integrity in my product if I don't have my shipping out that day. So it's not even a question. That's what's being done. That in and of itself is the biggest game changer for most humans if they can figure out, even I call them stoplights, taking a red pen, making a brain dump list out onto paper, taking a red highlighter, highlight those like the highest priority consequences, then the ones that are like, ooh, maybe I should do this fairly soon, but not like dire, those are yellow, highlight those yellow. We're not touching yellow until all the red are done.
Important and almost urgent.
And then you go, this is literally the Eisenhower matrix, but I make it like more colorful and fun, because you know that's how we do things. And then green are the things that, friends, you're not going to be doing those until it's playtime. So we're not going to be working on our gem dot paintings, which is what I'm doing right now. We're not going to be we're not doing those right now. So those are, yes, we need to get them done. They'll be done eventually, but they're not a priority. And when you can do that, usually I actually have gotten to the point where I can do them pretty swiftly in my head. I don't even have to highlight them anymore unless I'm in like panic mode. It makes a giant difference in my productivity, in my function, and overall in my life, and as a mom, because sometimes my red, yellow, green list is different at work than my red, yellow, green list at home. And those are important to notice, that those are different things. So.
All right. We have a request for Ryan to chime in.
Ryan knows a lot about this too. He talks about it a lot.
Well, I want to defer for a second to Dr. P, because he said he wanted to say something. So I want to give him the.
Well, thanks, Ryan. Just a quick one, and this is something I have whiteboard. It's called a Kanban system, Kanban.
Oh, yeah.
And I know there people say, oh yeah, there's software, blah, blah. No, I'm gonna get mixed up in software. Really easy. It's a whiteboard and sticky notes. I don't know whether you can see, I don't have the light right on it. So there are 3 sections of this whiteboard. There's options, much better than tasks, right? There is doing. You only get 3 things in doing. That's what you're doing today. The cool thing is when you've got it done, you put it in the done side. No, I don't know what, yeah. And you start getting rewards of, look how many things I'm building up in the done side. That's, to me, the problem with the cross it out on the list. The next day, I don't see all those things I've done because I'm supposed to write down the ones I haven't done yet. And I don't like to cross stuff out. It looks like something was wrong. So this is how I see what I've done. It's quick and easy. I have sticky notes and a pen right here. I can scribble a sticky note and stick it up there. That's it. The ID goes up there. It's in the options. Then I can look and see what I'm doing. And quick 5-minute YouTube video, personal Kanban, all one word.
Dr. David, I do that on my desktop of my computer, like with my tasks, but I also think that would be really valuable to take exactly what you did and put it in my office for my team, because I think that us as a group would really like to see that visual, because we have it digitally, but every day walking in being like, look at all these things we did, look at all these in our good pile. Like, I think that maybe would be really positive. So
yeah,
I think maybe that'll be something I do.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Brian?
Okay, Brian, you're on.
All right, I'm up. I was just looking because it said like Eric was asking the same thing, like what question are we on again? So it's how do we focus on the things that are truly the top priority. So what I tell my clients is make it a game that you're actually able to win. Because so many times we write down our to-do list and it's like, yeah, I did a video about this where it was like, there's all like 27 things on my to-do list for today. But the funny part is, as an ADHDer, I'm overflowing with optimism and I legitimately think that I'm going to be able to do it. And it's not until about like 2:30 p.m. that I'm like, oh no, I'm actually not going to be able to do this. And then that's when the negative self-talk comes in and all of that. So similar to what Brittany was saying, you know, for her, it's highlighting. And again, back to what we said before, do it in a way that works for you. For me, it's MVPs, most valuable priorities. So what are 3 things that you can do that at the end of the day, if you can get those done, you'll feel really good about yourself. And kind of using Brittany's approach, which I absolutely love. What are the ones that if you don't do it, you'll be upset? So if you think about it that way, regret is a really powerful emotion. So if you can put that out in front and be like, hey, what's something that if you don't have it done at the end of the day, you're going to be kind of upset. And when I frame it that way to my clients, it helps them to go, yeah. So I could go like plant new grass seed like I was doing 13 minutes before this started. Or you could do the thing that you know you should be doing and it'll feel way better to get it done. So yeah. MVP, make it a game you can win. That would be my tip.
I love the top 3, and then I read the book The One Thing, and Eric and I both love this book, and literally then, you know, what his observation in this book was that when people have 3 things to do, they often will get 2 out of 3 done, and the one that's not done is the most critical one. And so I started doing that with my accountability buddy. We just commit to one thing a day, and kind of to Eric's point around like just building the track as the train's moving. So I announced a coaching group that's starting in 2 weeks. It's like a pilot group, like a beta test, but literally everyone in the group is only going to commit one thing every day that they're going to get done. And it's going to be one important thing. And they're just going to do that every day for a month. And they're going to make tons of results because we don't need to worry about all the minutia. The minutia will find a way to get done, or it won't matter. It's the important big things that you're not doing right now that are what's holding you back.
I have like so many things I want to add to this. Okay, so with the one thing, there's the focusing question, which asks, what's the one thing you can do such by doing it would make everything else easier or unnecessary, right? And so it's this idea of how do we figure out the things that are going to actually make life easier later. Like instead of just doing this one-off, you know, responding to one-off emails, like looking at your emails, like, do I get similar emails a lot? Should I spend a couple hours and create templates? Yes. Because if that can,
yes, you should.
Because if that can, I mean, I use a program called Text Expander that I have a bunch of different templates that I have a couple keystrokes, and it literally creates a template with some fill in the blank and drop down stuff that I can have a really thought out email that I thought out a long time ago. And I just put in a couple of the details for the email, and it's sent in like a minute versus, you know, well, it would normally take me 20, 30 minutes sometimes to do that.
You can do something similar in Google, in Gmail, by the way, for the record.
Nice.
There's something, there's like an extension.
And you don't need to spend hours doing it. You can save them as you write them. And so create it as you go, right?
And I definitely recommend that. The other thing is this idea of like, you have to earn the right to work on number 2 and 3. Like work on the most important thing.
It's tricky.
I know. No, it's totally. But I'm telling you, accountability is like, that is probably the thing that I find to be the most helpful is sharing my top 3 things for the day with somebody else, right? Sharing it in a public way. Like in our coaching groups, we have our accountability teams. They each share the top 3 things for the day with their team. And then as a group, they share their top 1 thing for the week in our online forum. And so it's like, it's the stuff that you know you need to do, you know the benefits of it, and you also know that you can find 1,001 different ways to not do it.
So what I do, and I think that we haven't talked about motivation quite as much as we have productivity and organizing time. A giant one for me is I am wildly extrinsically motivated. And what extrinsically motivated means, a lot of ADHDers are, I would say the vast majority of us are extrinsically motivated. What that means is you won't do it if you're supposed to, or because you told yourself you should. Should is trash, it won't work. If you can find a way to assign it to something that you value, or that you, I hate the word guilt, but like if you'll feel worse if you don't do it because of something else. So for mine, a lot of things are, I know my motivators are money, because I am who I am, sleep, and my kids. Those are the three that if I can design my tasks around those things, often I am going to do them. So the great one that I tell people about is I used to struggle taking my meds on time every morning, until I realized that I was often a much less patient, functional, and focused mother in the mornings. Mornings are not my vibe. I don't do mornings well. It is not my time to shine ever. So I figured out that I was a much better mom. I was more patient. I didn't have as much sensory overload. I wasn't struggling as hard when I took my meds. So if I could turn this into my brain and say, you are a better mom if you take your meds. Guess who doesn't miss taking her meds very often anymore? It just doesn't happen.
Mhm.
And I'm not saying you can do that for every single thing you do, but if you can do it for maybe some of the more important things, especially habit-based tasks, they then become routine rather than a chore. And that in and of itself takes such a load off of what you're doing. Like that tidying thing I do, I told you guys I'm just a mess if I don't tidy up the spaces. That's because I built it into my system. I'm more hectic, and I'm just not as good of I'm not a functional wife or worker or all of the things, because I'm just scattery. And if I'm not scattery, then I'm not present, and that's not what I want to be. So that's how I did that for me.
And
All
I
right.
think
So
even the
go ahead.
yucky sort of everyday mundane stuff, you can, if you dig at it, tie it to your values and what's really most
You
important
can,
to you.
you
Right?
absolutely
Even
can.
the laundry. I mean, I always tell stories when I do like workshops on this stuff, but no matter what it is, and if you can't do it yourself, like a coach can definitely help you with this. Like dig in at your deeper reason, even for the most mundane shit that you have to do, somehow or other, there's a big payback for that in terms of what really matters to you deep down.
I think the more resistance you tend to have towards things, the more you got to connect with your values.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
All right. So I know we're pretty much near the end of at least the stated time. So I'm gonna take a cue from
Suggested
Aron.
time.
Suggested end.
Well, I mean, like this is fun for us. Like we like talking about this stuff.
I mean, they can go if they want, if they really need to.
What was that?
Then everybody else can go if they don't want to listen to us talk.
Yeah,
together the whole
exactly.
time.
We're just gonna
Fine.
hang out. We're gonna hang out. Eric's
Here.
gonna order us all food. Okay, so I think I'm gonna take a lead from Eric on this final question, because I think it's actually really useful. Is share one or two of kind of your favorite software or other tools. I think we know some of Brittany's, but these are a little bit obscure. And so I'll go first just because I'm already doing that. So one is, this was game changer for me. I'm gonna try just like kind of lightning round as best we can. A clipboard manager. So on my PC, I use one called Ditto. So when you cut and paste things, you can cut and paste like 10 things. You don't have to have just a single buffer where you have to cut, paste, cut, paste, cut, paste. You can have it do that. That's awesome. Obviously, I think a lot of us love body doubling, and focusmate.com. Always recommend that to my clients.
Adult study hall. It's like
sorry.
For an
Or
ADHD
Eric's
community.
adult study hall. That's that also. And those are two off the top of my head.
The study hall reminds me of one I've used. I went to boarding school for the last 3 years of high school. Every Saturday morning, we had study hall 9 to 10:30. So this was months ago. I was just getting overwhelmed with junk around my place in my apartment and thinking, this is so cluttered. When am I going to find time to do this? And I thought, wait a minute, study hall. So in my calendar, 9 to 10:30 Saturday morning is study hall. I vacuum, I pick stuff up, I put it away, I do the laundry, do all that, keep track of the house and that's it.
You could even do that in one of the study hall things that
Absolutely.
they run. It doesn't have to be work. It could be a different kind
Right.
of work.
We
that
actually
people
have
just
on
need,
every Sunday,
Yeah.
and we're actually adding a date later in the week as well. There's a 2-hour session for cleaning and decluttering, where you come in,
That's
you
brilliant.
say what you're going to work on,
So
and
smart.
midway through that session, you're like, all right, are you down a rabbit hole or are you on track? And then we keep going for another hour. So
I
that's
love it.
that's
That's
one
so
of the things
smart.
we do. I can show a cool tech tool.
Show it.
Go with
Okay.
for it.
I'm gonna share my screen. So this is a app or a website called Miro.
I love Myro. Oh my
Oh my
God.
God. It's
one of my
okay.
favorites. It's
So
so good.
this right here, I know you're okay. This is my entire planning of all of my business for the last 7 years.
Whoa.
What?
Like, yes. So from all of like my launch dates for my coaching groups to let's see. Here was a brain dump that I did on a whiteboard for a presentation I'm working on. Here is, let's see. I think this was a wireframe that I created for a website that I would like to develop at some point. So here's some social media stuff. So I have like all this stuff. This is like really early on in my coaching groups, where I literally all like the content and the ideas spelled out here. You can link literally any kind of media here. It has a gazillion different templates that I just
The templates. I just get lost in the templates.
Oh my God, they're
so
amazing.
magical.
They
They're
are
so
amazing.
beautiful.
And I just love because it's like this is not really organized, but I can find all the stuff I need to find, right?
It
And
doesn't
it's
matter. Don't make it
so
happy. I
flexible.
love it. Yeah.
So yeah, that's
What a good tip.
Miro.com.
Is that free?
Yes. And
Yeah.
there's it's
Yeah.
freemium. So
There's
you
paid
can,
versions where you can have more stuff or whatever.
right, and
But
you can
there's a free
you
version.
can collaborate with people on there, and
Mhm.
you can have 3 boards for free. I'm like, I'll just put all my shit on one board. Like I don't need 3 boards.
I'll just pile it all over here.
Right, I'll put lines in between some of the ideas that aren't related.
Oh, I love it.
That's so funny. I
And I use-
love
What
a
Oh my God.
tab, a browser extension that puts your tabs to sleep. And I can't think of what it's called, and my browser's not
Oh,
up, but it puts your tabs to sleep,
tricky.
so you can leave your tabs up and they don't drain resources on your
Oh,
computer. There used to be one called the Great Suspender that went away, and I
remember
think
that one.
like some bad things were happening. I don't know.
Oh.
But I use Chrome, and and off the top of my head, I can't remember what the extension's called, but the if you just like Google
Go to sleep app.
browser tab, sleep or something like that, there's several of them for different operating systems. But that's huge for me because it ends up being like a not so much like a to-do list, but it's more of like an idea list, things I want to visit, revisit, whatever, that I either get interrupted from. You know the drill. Like we've all got a whole
I leave them
browser
open
tabs
if I don't
open.
want to forget they
one
exist.
tab.
Yeah.
Someone's saying one tab. Is that what it's called? Or-
One
There's
tab?
that's one. If I open my
Okay.
browser, hang on a minute.
Just do
What's
it.
it called?
Then you'll know. It's gonna bug you
Yeah.
until you do it.
What's it called here?
Maybe it's
Actually,
just gonna bug
auto
Brittany.
tab discard. That's not like lovely.
Oh.
I think it's like it's a built-in Chrome extension now. But they have them for all different kinds of browsers. So the one that I used to use again was called the Great Suspender. So if you Google Great Suspender alternative, you'll come up with whatever browsers you use, whatever operating system you use. That's huge for me. I can have 30 tabs open and it doesn't impact the performance of my computer because only 1 or 2 of them are actually active.
Ooh, can I show
Pretty
one
cool.
more?
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's
Of course,
I
I'm
love
saying
tools.
yes.
This is like
it's
my
not
favorite part of the
panel.
whole chat. Show me all
Okay.
of your
Oh,
all of your
what
tabs.
you got?
I love it.
it's a Chrome extension called Event Merge. So I want to show. So there's a little hand button. Raise your hands if you ever have like duplicate events on your calendar and it drives
Oh
you
my
crazy.
gosh. All the time.
Here's
It's
the
duplicate calendars. That's the
solution.
problem.
Okay. So let me share screen. Okay. So here it is as the problem. So here you see here I have this duplicate of events here, but I click on this little thing up here. Check it out. Wait for it. Look what it does.
What?
Isn't
Did
that
it get rid of
pretty?
it?
It blends them. It recognizes that it's
blends
the same
them.
thing.
Oh my god.
And that is called
For the
what
record,
is this?
Aron, that's how I deleted my original like thing, is because I was getting rid of, I thought I deleted the one that I had made on my calendar, but I deleted the one that you had made when I left.
Event merge.
Yeah. Yeah. Event merge.
Event
That's necessary
merge.
apparently.
That's cool.
That's how I almost forgot to pick up our kids today. And then my
Oh,
wife
well
knows
done.
better. And she was like, just a reminder, you're supposed to pick up the kids. I'm like, yeah, I was just getting my keys.
I was doing it.
You're not the
And
boss of
doing
me,
grass
right?
I was doing the grass seed and the kids. It was happening at the same time.
Yeah, I have like so many cool tech tools that I want to show. Can we just have a show
my
and tell
God.
session?
I know.
Should have a whole show
I
about
know.
tech tools.
We should
Yes.
totally, yeah.
I
Actually, that's a
heard
great.
I heard Eric give a presentation at a conference years ago, and he started by saying, now, I'm probably going to talk way too fast, so hold on. About 6 months later, there was an article in Attitude magazine by Eric that had all that. I thought, great, because I've taken notes for 20 whatever years. I could not keep up. No way. No way.
I love it.
Is that so audience members, and then Ryan, you do have to share here. Audience members though, put in the chat. I kind of like that idea, Eric, just like a show and tell with just tools. Because I have so many.
And I was talking to Jessica
There's so
McCabe
many.
today, and she was like, you have to do tech tools on TikTok. I was like,
I have a couple, but not enough. Like people ask me every time, all of mine always blow up because that's like number one thing people want, because I have
know.
so
And it's funny
many that I use.
in this conversation, like I love the tech tools, but like part of the thing I want to be really clear about is that like there's no silver bullet with any
Oh,
tool.
none. No.
And I think it's, and I see like,
Except
I used to
Brittany's
present a lot
planners.
on technology.
Yeah.
And I
No,
started
that's
stepping
not
away
even that.
from
I
that.
flip between other things too.
Right. Because people think that like the tech tool is going to be the solution that solves all the problems. Like it won't. It'll just help a bit for a
I
while.
have so many tools, and it's okay to tool hop. It's totally okay. You should do it. Feed the part of you that needs the tool that you're using. It's a thing. Yeah.
Ryan, anything to add? You got your hand raised.
So polite.
So polite.
That
I
was
won't raise my hand.
again. That was when Eric said before, "Raise your hand if." And then I forgot it was there. Yeah, I forgot it was there. No, I will share one that I feel like there's an assumption that people know about it, but I didn't know about it for a really long time, and it's called Asana. So it's ASANA, and what this revolutionized my whole life, because I mean, to everyone's point, like all these different notebooks and all these things going on, but when I have those days that I call digitize and destroy, I will take the notebooks and go through it and be like, okay, what do I need? And unlike Dr. P, I love the feeling and the dopamine hit of crossing something out with like a big marker and then putting it into Asana. And Asana is, I call it a 3D to-do list, because you can have, unlike the pieces of paper that I have to throw out eventually, you can put it in there, and it's a great receptacle is not the right word, but a great place to put any ideas or tasks. So anytime I get an idea,
when you say a
it ends up
3D
there.
list, I think it's, if you're describing it the way I think you are, because I use Asana, I think it's a great way to describe it. Are you saying that because you can have one item that actually lives simultaneously on two different like boards, and if you update one, it automatically updates the other?
That is way even better than what I meant, but that's perfect. No, what I just meant was, like, normally, like Dr. P was talking about, hey, on this side I have this, on this side I have this. So I have like one for work or one for home, but I also have one for like TikTok ideas and big goals in the future and all these things. So I just mean it can handle every aspect of your life, a place to put it at least.
To bounce off Ryan, if you have a team at all, or if you're working with multiple people, I do the same thing in Slack. If you use Slack for any of the things that you do, it has literally changed my entire business. When we started using it, not only has our productivity increased beyond tenfold, our income increased, like everything is just so much more efficient. It's searchable, which is important for me, because if I like have listed 12 things for TikTok ideas or whatever, but we also have, what's happening in shipping, what's happening, you have different channels where you're speaking about the different things. So I don't have to go hunt back in a chat of things we were talking about. also it's great because if you tell me something, if it's not written down, then it's gone. It does not exist to me. So if my employees now know that if you need me to order more cardstock, girlfriend, that's got to go in the Slack, because otherwise I will not be purchasing more cardstock. That is not going to be happening. So it's been a boundary training tool, not just, I mean, if you're working with other people at all in any manner, oh my word, it changes every game for business life. And I kind of want to make a Slack for my husband because it would just be really handy, but I haven't talked him into it yet. We're working on him.
Love it. Love it. That's so good. Yeah. And then like even low tech ones, because you were talking about the calendars earlier, Brittany, like I've got a calendar
Calendar,
for events and
magic.
I have a calendar,
You
Google
guys want to
Calendar
see
just
it?
for
You wanna see my Google
reminders.
Calendar? Do you want to see my Google Calendar? It's really pretty. There's
I
colors.
think we've got people that need to go to bed
You're fine.
and go to put their kids
Probably.
to bed is what I've seen in the
Wise.
chat. So we're gonna
Go to
wrap
bed,
it up.
guys.
The other low tech one I just want to mention is do not disturb mode.
Yeah.
Game changer, especially
Yes.
like
The
if
new iOS.
if you are a
15.
morning person like I am, go to bed with it on do not disturb, wake up with a clear head and get something important done.
Sure to
And
mute
we
your
all have
watch
that.
too. Do not disturb your watch as well, because otherwise that will ding at you. So make sure they're both. do not
Where's the
disturb.
mute button on my very cool, like,
I'm
12
really
years
sorry
old
about your
watch?
life, Aaron. This
Yeah.
actually
Gotta
saves
watch.
me
Yeah.
a lot
Tells
of time.
time and date.
Aaron,
Done.
do you have an iPhone?
No, I hate Mac.
Okay.
Oh my
So I
word.
won't hold it against you. So iOS 15, it is the most ADHD, I think, like supportive update that has been
So
made
awesome.
since Siri came on board. Like
Really?
it's yes.
Wow.
Like so
All I
on the
need.
not just do not disturb. So you can completely customize the do not disturb and you can
What?
select which people who contact you, they can know what mode you're in,
Yeah.
and
Nice.
notification batching. So you can have it like hold all your notifications for all of your stuff until predetermined time, and then it sends
Oh, that's
everything in one
awesome.
batch.
Ah,
Oh my God. Like, yes.
It's like they
amazing.
know.
a zillion stuff. No,
They can
no.
figure out how to schedule text messages on an iPhone, then I will be their biggest fan forever. I cannot figure
Oh,
that.
isn't
That
that
drives me
amazing?
bonkers.
I can
I
do my
know, it's kinda
emails, but I
weird.
can't do my.
I
text.
know.
I can't even do email.
That's like a
All
default
right.
on an Android. We got totally off track, but this has been
Oh,
fun.
sorry. Shocker. So shocking.
All right. So attendees, please join me in thanking our panelists for taking time out of their evenings to let us in behind the scenes, show us their workspace, show us their computers, their apps, their everything, and share with us their struggles
Their
and their
pleasure.
strategies. So I have heartfelt thanks to all of you. I honestly was not sure if this panel would ever come together, and I'm so humbled and grateful by the stature and quality of the panelists that said yes. So thank you for accepting the invitation and for being willing to do this. And thank you to everyone for attending as well. And maybe we'll let you know if we're going to do a tech tools themed follow-up.
Brittany.
It's like my favorite.
And I want to say a thanks to Aron for
Yes.
taking the
Yeah, go
initiative to get us all
Aaron.
together, and he made it
Keeping us
super
vaguely on
ADHD
track.
friendly to be a part of it, like put it on our calendars for us and gave us marketing
Oh my
materials.
God, he gave
I was
us
like,
so many reminders.
I was like, this is so cool.
Well done.
Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you. And I have to give a shout out to Kat because she did 90% of the heavy lifting, because
Way to
one
go,
of our
Kat.
ADHD success
Well
tips
done.
we didn't
Everyone
talk
needs a
about.
cat.
I need a
Everyone needs
cat.
Yep.
one. It's
Yeah.
wildly important.
Yeah.
I would like to thank everybody who attended. You make our
Yay,
work
thanks, guys.
worthwhile, and I'm so glad you were all here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well
Amen.
said.
All right. Well, that is it for the night. Drive safely, and we will see you all another time. Have a great night.
Thank you, everyone.
Brittany, let's
Thank
collaborate.
you.
I want to get one of your notebooks.
Anytime.
Okay.
Okay.
I think we can
bye.
actually. Are we still all on? I don't even.